towards the evening when it's nice and cool. I mean, even yesterday only being May 19, it was a hot day in the sun. Sitting outdoors. The sun was beating pretty hot, but in the shade it was okay. So when would they want to go draw water? Early morning, late at night. What we're going to see here, it's noon. And a Samaritan woman comes to draw water. And Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" This is interesting because the way it's worded, there's a question mark. But the Greek language is not a question mark. Jesus is saying, whoa. It's not a question mark. Jesus is saying to the woman, basically, give me a drink. Not a command. It's a request, but not a question request. It's just, give me a drink. I'm thirsty. And the woman says to him, "You're a Jew, and I'm a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" This is the curious conversation. Because we look at this with our Western eyes. I mean, we got men and women all mixed up together this morning, right? We don't separate the two. We don't have men go worship in one place and women worship in another place. Back in the early or the mid-'60s when I went down to Chiapas, Mexico as a little kid, I found it so interesting because the worship services there, men sat on one side, women sat on the other. We don't do that here in America. But you got to get into the mindset of the Jewish people. And even still today, the mindset of many Middle Eastern people. The fact that a man does not talk to a woman if that woman is not in his family. You don't talk to a woman. Not at all. That's one of the things that we're warned about many times as military people if we deploy. Do not talk to a Middle Eastern woman. Don't do it. Number one, this lady is a lady. Christ shouldn't be talking to her. Number two, she's a Samaritan woman. She is a hated person by the Jews. But the curious conversation is that Jesus breaks down those borders. He breaks down those barriers, those false barriers that we put up between each other. So she's a woman, sort of oxymoron to say she is a woman, and a Samaritan. But there's also a third thing that's going on here. Remember that for Jewish people, to be clean ceremonially was almost the number one thing in their life. It wasn't always the relationship with Yahweh God, but it was being ceremonially clean, religiously clean. You have Jesus here, a Jewish man, asking a Samaritan woman for a drink out of her bucket. Her bucket is unclean. We have no problem with that today, right? I mean, we had a bunch of ladies over at our house yesterday. We had a teenager over last night with the daughter, and teenager, the other one was there, had some cake, and I had some cake, and we ate off the same fork, and we don't think anything of it. That day, yeah, big time. So Jesus is talking to a woman, a Samaritan woman, and is going to drink out of her bucket. Totally wrong according to the Jewish mindset. But Jesus says to her, if you knew the gift of God who is asking you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would give you living water. Well, the woman says, "Sir, you've nothing to draw the water with." We know it's believed the well at that point was about 125, 130 feet deep. You had to have a pretty long rope to get down that deep. And she says, "Sir, you have nothing to draw the water with. You don't have a rope. You don't have a bucket. You have nothing. Are you greater," and I like this part, "are you greater than our father Jacob?" Remember, she's a Samaritan. They would say a half-breed. But she says that she's part of the family, of the Jewish family, our father Jacob, who gave us this well to drink from, and also his sons and his flocks and his herds. And Jesus says, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again. But whoever drinks of this water I will give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become a spring of water welling up to eternal life. you notice what Jesus does here? She has one idea of her conversation, which is sort of the surface talk. He uses that to get into the deeper issue, the spiritual walk of who he is. I know last week when we talked about what our parents called to do, moms and dads called to do, and I gave some ideas of raising children. Deuteronomy talks about while you're on the way, while you're walking, talk about these things. Share them, bind them, memorize them. See, the reality is, you and I have so many opportunities to share our faith with somebody else, to take what is going on the surface and move it to the deeper. What do I mean? Some of you remember Jim Hinwood. Mickey, your husband. Jim, for a lot of years, was very faithful in the fact of sending mom and daughters to church and grandchildren to church and great-grandchildren to church. But for him, faith was something sort of out there. It was out there. About a year and a half ago, 4 or 5 months before Jim's death, he's a big sailor. Got to know that. Big sailor, Lake Michigan. And he and I were talking, and I said to him, as I was sitting in the house with him, Jim, what happens if you're off sailing by yourself and you fall overboard? He goes, well, Pastor, I tie myself up. I got a lifeline. Jim, do you know that lifeline for our life is Jesus? See what I just did? I'm not saying I'm being like Jesus, but trying to be Christ-like. Taking what was being talked about up on the surface and moving it into the reality of our spiritual walk with Jesus Christ. I mean, and there's a praise that Jim did accept Christ within his life, and he's with the Lord in praise right now in celebration. But to be able to move from up here down to here, you and I have those opportunities with people. And the woman then says, the woman is not really quite getting it. She says, Sir, give me this water that I won't get thirsty and I don't have to keep coming here to draw water. Well, later on we see that the crowd of people are following Jesus. Why? Because they're getting free food from him. The woman says, hey, if you give me free water, I'm never going to have to draw water again. She's thinking the physical. And Jesus moves her and says, go call your husband and come back. Go call your husband and come back. She's in a quandary at this point. If you know the story, she's in a quandary. Because Jesus knows what her life has been like. Well, this is the part that we get into that we I think at times start to judge her. Because Jesus says to her, you're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you've had 5 husbands. And the man you're living with right now is not your husband. We tend to look at that and we judge her. We forget the culture of that day. Rhetorical question. Could a woman divorce a man or just a man divorce a woman? A woman could not divorce a man. Only a man could divorce a woman. She was married 5 times and she was put out 5 times. We don't know why, but she was put out. She was used and put out 5 times. Why was she living with this man? Maybe she was scared to be put out a 6th time. There's more going on here than us thinking that she's a loose woman. I think there's the fact that she's been used, been abused. She's hurting. She's at the well at noontime because she can't go there in the morning or in the afternoon when all of her other supposed friends go because they'll all talk about her. They'll gossip about her. So she goes in the heat of the day. And she says to Jesus, I can see that you are a prophet. She's starting to get it. Some of you see maybe the movie, the Avatar movie. Any of you see that movie, Avatar? I liked it. I really liked it. In the movie, the movie is about people from the world going off to another country or another planet and harvesting all the goods from the other planet, and the people of the other planet not being able to really fight back. And there's one of the individuals who's a Marine who